This is Bluebook Digital SAT 7, Math Module 1. Lorenzo purchased a box of cereal and some strawberries at a grocery store. Lorenzo paid $2 for the box of cereal and $1.90 per pound for the strawberries. If Lorenzo paid a total of $9.60 for the box of cereal and the strawberries, which of the following equations can be used to find P, the number of pounds of strawberries Lorenzo purchased? This one seems very straightforward. It's $2 straight up plus $1.90 per pound, and they tell you to use P as in Paul, would have to equal 9.6, and they write it in the other order, but that's A. The function f is defined by that. What is the value of f of x when x equals 2? Well, of course, f of 2 simply is 25 times 2 plus 30, which is 80. The graph shown gives the estimated value in dollars of a tablet as a function of the number of months since it was purchased. What is the best interpretation of the y-intercept of the graph in this context? So the y-intercept, which is here, is the starting point. It's the value when it's 0 months after it was purchased, which is, of course, the starting value. The estimated value of the tablet was $2.25 when it was purchased. Yeah, that's the answer. Which value is a solution to the given equation? Well, if you wanted to, you could isolate absolute of P, and you could put that on the other side. And then the answers that make that true would have been either P is 4 or P is negative 4. But of course, only positive 4 is an answer choice. In triangles EFG and triangles EFG and JKL are congruent, where E, F, and G correspond to J, K, and L. So it goes alphabetically the way that you're expecting. E, F, G corresponds with J, K, and L. The measure of angle E is 45. So if that's a 45, then of course this is a 45 also. Oh, and that just is the question. It's actually about J as in John, which is just 45. During the first part of an experiment, a ball was launched from a 7-foot-tall platform. The graph shows the height y in feet of the ball x seconds after it was launched during the first part of the experiment. During the second part of the experiment, the ball was launched the same way, but from a platform that is 2 feet shorter than the first platform. Which of the following graphs could represent the height y in feet of the ball x seconds after it was launched during the second part of the experiment? Well, if it started from 2 feet shorter, instead of starting from 0,7, it would start from 0,5. So you could probably just scroll through the answer choices, but it would start from 0,5, and then instead of peaking at a little bit above 8, it would peak at a little bit above 6. So it would start at 5 and peak a little bit above 6, which seems like B as in boy. Yeah, none of the other answer choices are close here. The ratio of x to y is equivalent to the ratio 9 to 5, which I would write as x over y equals 9 over 5. If x is 162, so you could simply continue across, that's 162 over the thing that you're looking for. And then you would do this by cross multiplying, which obviously you could do on a hand calculator, or let's do it on Desmos. So you'd be looking at 5 times 162, which is 810, is 9y, which of course makes y 90. At a state fair, attendees can win tokens that are worth a different number of points depending on the shape. One attendee won S square tokens and C circle tokens worth a total of 1,120 points. The equation 80S plus 90C equals 1,120 represents the situation. How many more points is a circle token worth than a square token? How many more points? Well, if S and C are the number of tokens, and then 80S and 90C are the block's total of points that you win for those types of tokens, that means that the squares are worth 80 each, and the circles are worth 90 each, which just makes the answer 10. What is the solution to the given equation? Well, let me recopy this. In any situation other than x being negative 9 itself, this just collapses as this. If x is negative 9 itself, then you actually have a hole and you can't do this because you have a divide by 0 or a 0 on top and bottom mistake. But it collapses to this, as in this, which means x itself is just 16. The equation 12t plus b equals c relates the variables t, b, and c. Which of the following correctly expresses the value of c minus b? Well, all you have to do is switch the b as in boy to the other side. So if you leave the 12t here and you put this on the other side, then you literally have what it's asking about, which just is this. What is an x-coordinate of an x-intercept of the graph of that in the xy plane? So x-intercepts, also known as roots or zeros or solutions. They're the things that make it true that you get 0 as y, which is either 14 or negative 5 or negative 4. I'm going to put 14. You could have, of course, just graphed this on Desmos also. The function f is defined as that. What is the value of f of 1/4? Well, even if you didn't know how to do this, you could easily graph this on Desmos. In fact, let's do it that way. So let me carefully type in and then in here you want to plug in 1/4 as the input value. So if I make a table, I can type in whatever I want. Let me type in 1/4 and it tells you 2.75. So 2.75 is the answer. Let me explain how to do it writing by hand also, because it actually collapses to be a really simple example for this. F of 1/4, it's 5 times a fourth minus a fourth, all squared, plus 11/4. But this itself is a 0, so 0 squared is 0, so 5 times 0 is 0, which means the answer just is 11/4 or 2.75. A circle in the xy plane has that equation. Which of the following gives the center of the circle and its radius? Well, in general, a circle with center h comma k and radius r is always written in this form. X minus h all squared plus y minus k all squared equals r squared. So here you would have center 13k and the radius, well, r squared is 64, so it's radius 8. Center 13k and radius 8. A circle has a radius of 2.1 inches. The area of the circle is b pi square inches, where b is a constant. So the area of any circle is pi r squared. So the area of this circle would be pi times the square of 2.1, which is pi times 4.41. And then they're saying pi times 4.41 is b pi. So of course b itself is just 4.41. During a study, the temperature in degrees Celsius of the air in a chamber was recorded to the nearest integer at certain times. The scatter plot shows the recorded temperature y in degrees C of the area in the chamber x minutes after the start of the study. What was the average rate of change in degrees C per minute of the recorded temperature of the air in the chamber from x equals 5 to x equals 7? So if you look carefully at the chart, you have the point 5, 14 and 7, 24. So the slope of the line that conjoins these 2 points, which is the average rate of change between them, is the differences in y's over the differences in x's, which gives you simply 5. That's a system of equations. The solution to the given system of equations is that, what is the value of 39x? Well, as is often the case, it's set up so that if you simply add or subtract in place, it collapses to be something very manageable. So watch what happens in this case. If you simply add the expressions on top of each other, you're looking at 0 equals 13x minus 6. And then put the 6 on the other side, you get that 6 is 13x. Now, conveniently, it's asking you for 39x, but 39x is just triple 13x. So the answer is just 18. That function gives the number of bacteria in a population t minutes after an initial observation. How much time in minutes does it take for the number of bacteria in the population to double? This is actually simple if you understand the phrasing of the function. So it's 40,000, which is the starting value, times, now I'm going to put this in a big bracket, 2 to the t over 790. But if you want the entire thing to double, then you just want this to be 2 itself, as in the exponent is a 1, right? Because 2 to the 1 is just 2 itself. So the answer is simply 790. What is the value of 2 minus 4x? They're prompting you to do this by substitution. You could do the distribution and write out the entire expression and solve for x and then plug it back in. Of course you could. But when you're looking at this as a unit and this as a unit, let me substitute in for that. Suppose that capital Q is 2 minus 4x. Then this can be written as 5 minus 7q equals 16 minus 8q. And then you can simply add 8q to both sides, which gives you positive 1q, and subtract 5, which gives you 11. So 2 minus 4x, which is q, is 11, and that just is the answer. It's set up that substitution is incredibly helpful there. A scientist studying the life cycle of dragonflies counted the number of dragonflies in a certain habitat each day for 46 days. On February 15th, there were 99 dragonflies in the habitat. The percent increase in the number of dragonflies in the habitat from January 1st to February 15th was 12.5%. How many dragonflies were in the habitat on January 1st? So always think of start to end and write the actual expression going from left to right. It's asking about how many there were in the beginning. And then you know that the end is 99. The percent increase is 12.5. Increasing by 12.5% is multiplying by 1.125. So you just simply hit the quotient, which I'm hitting on the calculator. 99 divided by 1.125 gives you 88. That's a quadratic. One solution to the given system of equations can be written, to the given equation can be written as that, where k is a constant. So you have to use the quadratic formula here. Actually, you could do it on Desmos. I would recommend using the quadratic formula here. So you are expected to know the quadratic formula, and toward the end of sections, when you get a challenging question, you'll probably be asked at least one of these. So in this case, it's 8 plus or minus the square root of, I'm going to write it the long way, it's quantity negative 8 squared minus 4 times 2 times negative 7, all over 2 times 2. So 8 plus or minus the root of 64, and then that would be a plus, and 4 times 2 is 8 times 7 is 56, all over 4 is 8 plus or minus the root of, that's 120, which of course is going to reduce over 4. And, oh, no, actually that's what you need, right? So then the solutions are 8 plus root 120 over 4 and 8 minus root 120 over 4 is 8 minus root k over 4. So of course, k as in kangaroo is 120. Notice that you could also do this on Desmos by actually graphing it. So you could look at f of x equals 2x squared minus 8x minus 7. And you could see that its roots are negative 0.738 and positive 4.738. So this is kind of a tricky, well, it's kind of a long way of doing it, but positive 4.738 has to correspond with 8 minus root k over 4. Now, because of rounding, it's going to be a little bit tricky. In fact, in order to be more precise, let me copy all of the decimal spots, 4.73861. And then I'm going to cross multiply. So 4.73861 times 4 is 18.95444. And then subtract 8 from that gives you 10.95444. And then you could flip to put the negative on the other side, but it ends up not really mattering here. And then square the entirety of both sides. And you'll see that you get something very, very, very close to 120. So the rounding makes it imperfect, but you can still use Desmos to either confirm or help you if you're not sure how to do it. The function f of x is defined as 19 more than 4 times the number x, as in f of x is 19 more than 4 times the number x, which is 4x plus 19. If y equals f of x is graphed in the xy plane, what is the best interpretation of the x-intercept? The best interpretation of the x-intercept. So an x-intercept, again, also known as a root or a solution or a zero, is the thing that makes it true that y is 0. So 4x plus 19. So this would be the y-intercept is 0, 19, and a positive upward slope of 4. The x-intercept would be this. It would be the thing that makes it true that you get 0 as y. So it's when 4x plus 19 equals 0, as in 4x is negative 19, so x is negative 19 fourths. So the x-intercept is negative 19 fourths, 0. Let's go one at a time, because these are designed to be deceptive. When f of x equals 0, the number is negative 19 fourths. That seems to be true. When the number is 0, f of x equals 19, well, no, that's reversing x and y, so that's gone. Okay, let me use this, right? So no. The value of f of x increases by 1 for each increase of 4 in the value of the number. Definitely not. For each increase of 1 in the value of the number, f of x increases by 4. That's actually true, but not the answer, right? The meaning of the x-intercept is actually this point right here. So yeah, when f of x equals 0, as in when y is 0, the number is negative 19 fourths. Yes. Which of the following expressions is equivalent to? I would just try these one at a time. So as long as you're clear that you're in degree mode, you're probably better off just hitting this on either Desmos or the calculator. So I'm just literally typing it into the calculator. Sine 24 cos 66 plus cos 24 sine 66. Be careful of parentheses, but in this case, you can copy it exactly how it's written, and you don't need any extra parentheses because there are, well, actually, implicitly, there are parentheses around the product. So on the TI, it looks like this, but there are implicitly parens here because in the order of operations, multiplication comes before addition. So you can actually just write it as this, and they're implied here, and I get 1. And then simply try the answer choices one at a time. So 2 cos 66 times sine 24, no. 2 cos 66 plus 2 cos 24? No. Cos of 66 squared plus cos of 24 squared? Yes. And then just to be thorough, is it cos of 66 squared plus sine of 24 squared? No. It's C as in cat.